Hi everybody, I'm Jack and this is Raw Tropical Living. Thanks for joining me today. Listen, if my eyes aren't lined up correct and it doesn't look like I'm looking into the camera, I'm having weird little issues with my iPhone. I went to Pensacola the other day, I actually dropped it on the pavement, shattered it, had the screen replaced, and the microphone's a little wonky today, so I can't face the screen to me, I have to face it away. And every time I've been testing, it looks like I'm looking away from people, so I've kind of got to find my rhythm coming from this side. Yeah, stuff happens, stuff happens. I'll tell you what, it was just brutally hot in Pensacola the past 2 days. Thursday, I literally came back to the little Airbnb I rented and just crashed into the bed, had a little bit of a headache, just felt really rough. That heat beat me down and I made a point to stay hydrated. But anyhow, it was a good trip down and got things accomplished, and I'm ready to do a video here for the weekend. Anyhow, I do videos every day. Do a lot of videos on the raw vegan lifestyle, a plant-based lifestyle in general, a little bit of fitness, a little bit of meditation, and just a little bit of philosophy here and there on the weekend. So if you're not already subscribed, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that subscribe button now. Click on the little bell and check send notifications so you will stay subscribed to the channel. Just another one of my little weekend talks today, and this is by Jack Kornfield. Jack Kornfield is an author, Buddhist practitioner, and he's one of the key teachers to introduce Buddhist mindfulness practice to the West. I've read a bit of his stuff just recently. I've not, until I really started being into the mindfulness meditation part of it, I wasn't familiar with him. I've probably seen some of his quotes around, but when it comes to mindfulness, it's mostly been Thich Nhat Hanh. But this is a good one right here. I bought this magazine and I'm going to do a little reading. I've done this one before, Lion Drawer. It's a good little Buddhist wisdom for our time. I've read from this one before, and I bought this last week, not the last couple of days in Pensacola, but I bought this at my little food store, Everman's Co-op, and I'm reading through it, and I don't know, it just hit me. I'd already done last weekend's message, the weekend message, but this one I just kind of kept on the back burner and said I was going to read this week. So let's get in there and talk about it. As the title says, it's don't wait to be happy. Don't wait to be happy. I was actually going to the second part of it we'll get to in just a minute, but let me just start. Dear friends, after more than 40 years teaching mindfulness and compassion to thousands on the spiritual path, the most important message I can offer is this. You don't have to wait to be free. You don't need to postpone being happy. All too often, these beautiful spiritual practices of mindfulness and compassion become entwined with a vision of self-discipline and duty. We see them as taking us through a long road of obstacles that leads eventually to distant benefits. Yes, there is hard work of the heart and there are demanding cycles in our lives. Yet, wherever you are on your journey, there's another wonderful truth called living the fruit. And living the fruit, that's why I've got that as the second part of the title. That just really resonated with me. Living the fruit, or starting with the result. The fruits of well-being and the experience of joy, freedom, and love are available now, whatever your circumstances. When Nelson Mandela walked out of Robben Island prison after 27 years of incarceration, he did so with such dignity, magnanimity, and forgiveness that his spirit transformed South Africa and inspired the world. Like Mandela, you can be free and dignified wherever you find yourself. However difficult your circumstances, however uncertain the times, remember, freedom is not reserved for exceptional people. No one can imprison your spirit. When your boss calls and you feel fear or anxiety, when someone in your family is in conflict or duress, when you feel overwhelmed by the growing problems in the world, you have choices. You can be bound and constricted, or you can use this difficulty to open and discover how to respond wisely in this unfolding journey. Sometimes life gives us ease, sometimes it is challenging, and sometimes it is profoundly painful. Sometimes the whole society around you is in upheaval. Whatever your circumstances, you can take a breath, soften your gaze, and remember that courage and freedom are within, waiting to awaken and to offer to others. Even under the direst conditions, freedom of spirit is available. Freedom of spirit is mysterious, magnificent, and simple. We are free and able to love in this life, no matter what. Deep down, we know this is true. We know it whenever we feel a part of something greater. Listening to music, making love, walking in the mountains or swimming in the sea, sitting at the mystery of a dying loved one as her spirit leaves her body silently as a falling star, or witnessing the miraculous birth of a child. At times like these, a joyous openness swells through our body and our heart is surrounded by peace. Freedom starts where we are. Sarah, a single mom with 2 kids, found out that her 8-year-old daughter Alicia had leukemia. Sarah was terrified, anxious, grieving the loss of her child's health, scared that she would lose her. For the first year, Alicia went through rounds of chemotherapy, hospital stays, and doctors. A fearful sadness filled the house, and anxiety colored Sarah's days. Then one afternoon, when they were out on a walk, Alicia said, "Mama, I don't know how long I'm going to live, but I want them to be happy days." Excuse me, these allergies are killing me here in the South. Her words were a splash of cold water on her mother's face. Sarah realized that she had to step out of the fearful melodrama to meet her daughter's freedom of mind with her own, to return to a trusting spirit. Sarah grabbed her daughter and did a little waltz, holding her tight. Her fear dissipated, and in time Alicia healed. She is now 22, just graduated from college. But even if she hadn't healed, what kind of days would you have had her choose? You can't do much with your life if you're miserable. You might as well be happy. When I was 8 years old on an especially bitter winter day, my brothers and I dressed in jackets and scarves and gloves and went out to play in the snow. I was skinny as a rail and shivering with cold. My twin brother Irv, stronger, wilder, and more robust, looked at me, contracted and fearful, and laughed. Then he began to remove layers of clothing, first the gloves, his coat, then a sweater, his shirt, undershirt, all the while laughing. He danced and paraded around half naked in the snow, the icy wind whipping around us. We were all wide-eyed, laughing hysterically. In that moment, my brother taught me about choosing freedom, manifesting a spirit that to this day I still remember. Whether we're in a wildly blowing snowstorm or feeling the cold wind of loss, blame, or our collective insecurity, we want to be free. We want to be released from fear and worry, not confined by judgments. We can. We can learn to trust love, express ourselves, and be happy. As we discover trust and freedom in ourselves, we will then find our way to share them with the world. Barbara Widener, who began Grandmothers for Peace, explains, "I began to question the kind of world I'm leaving for my grandchildren. So I got a sign, a grandmother for peace, and stood on a street corner. Then I joined others kneeling as a human barrier at a munitions factory. I was taken to prison, strip searched, and thrown into a cell. Something happened to me. I realized they couldn't do anything more. I was free. Now Barbara and her organization, Grandmothers for Peace, works in dozens of countries around the world. This freedom is here for you as well. You can begin personally with freedom of spirit, freedom to start over, freedom beyond fear, and freedom to be yourself. And then discover freedom to love, freedom to stand up for what matters, and freedom to be happy. Finding freedom is an active process that engages your intellect, your heart, and your whole spirit. The means and the goal are one. Be yourself, dream, trust, and act. You can choose your spirit. Freedom, love, and joy are yours. In your very life, your exact circumstance. They are your birthright. Come on, I've talked about this before. We all know people that are always waiting for something. You know, they're waiting to have their freedom. They're waiting to have their happiness. They're waiting. Or, you know, there's a waiting in bad circumstances. I can relate this one to that period of being locked up 4 years ago. You know, like I say, I don't want to ever over-exaggerate the situation, but I was locked up in Panama for 3 weeks. The only gringo in there at the time, the only person from North America. Most everybody in there spoke Spanish. My Spanish is okay, wasn't fluent, but yeah, that was about a year into my journey of eating and just in general of a mindset, a mind change. I had quit drinking. I had changed the way I ate. I changed the way I looked at things. And I think this is why this type of message always resonates with me is that's when it really took. When I was locked up, And like I say, there's people out there that are locked up that have mastered this stuff. I've read stories of people, Mandela, people like that have been locked up for decades, and they keep it together and they have that mindfulness about the situation. Now I don't know how I would be in that in those situations. I hope I could take it a little bit further, but in those 3 weeks that I was locked up, I just decided I only had that I would still be happy. There was a guy in there. I still remember him to this day. I wish there was some way I could find him, now and have conversations outside. His name was Cuba. First day I got there, I'm doing some meditation and stuff. I'm talking to people, and somehow he just either overhears me or he's part of the conversation. And I'm talking about while I'm locked up in there that I'm happy. And these people, especially the first couple of days, they're looking at me kind of like I'm a 10th level nut. And he's like, how are you happy? How are you happy? You're locked up in here. I'm like, I have no choice. I can't get out of here right now. I have no choice but being in here and making the best out of this situation that I'm in. So I could have sat there for 3 weeks and just been miserable and pissed and moaned and this and that, but I chose to be happy. Now, for the first few days, he would always tease me about this. He'd come by and he'd say, hey, happy boy, you still happy today? I'd be like, yeah, we just called him Cuba. He was from Cuba. I'd say, yeah, Cuba, I'm still happy. Smile on my face. 2, 3, 4 days, he would do this. And we got to know each other. I'd watch him play chess. He was a brilliant chess player. He was the big dude. I've told in another story, kind of saved my ass in there when I was on a water fast and about as weak as a kitten. But really good guy. I think it was after about 4 or 5 days, maybe a week into the 3-week stay, that he kind of started seeing, what I would like, how it was real. I wasn't just talking. And then we got talking more about stuff. I didn't share a whole lot of my thoughts at that time. I was kind of still a babe, which I am now, a baby on the trail. But yeah, that's when it just kind of locked for me that we can make, no matter what it was. And then the night before, I remember the night before I got transported to this detention center, I slept in a cell, like a shitty cell with just like concrete. I didn't have a mattress. I didn't have anything. And I just breathed all night. I wasn't really practicing regular meditation at the time, but I just took every moment as it came, and I tried to have gratitude for it wasn't any worse than it was. The people didn't seem to be dangerous. They were actually, even though I was being locked up, they were polite about things, no mistreatment. I wasn't out in the elements. I wasn't overly hot or cold where I was. So yeah, I just started trying to take those lessons to heart, during that time. And since it's just been, it's just been a philosophy that has worked for me. People are always waiting. I've talked about this before. It's always about these big events in life, weddings, graduations, this great vacation, or waiting for something that's going to make us happy. Or sometimes when we're in really bad circumstances, it's almost like this, everything's got to be negative right now until this gets worked out. But as the article says, don't wait to be happy. We can find happiness in any moment. I like that little phrase in there. Let me find that again. Living the fruit, or starting with the result. Starting with the result. We don't wait for something to happen to make us happy. We start out being happy, and we adjust that. We figure out how to keep that happiness up no matter what our circumstances. So anyhow, that's been one of my most powerful lessons, practices, whatever, over this past 5 years. It's not going to always be, it's not all about the food. Like if you're, if you don't ever get past the food, if you don't ever get inside your own head, examine yourself, examine the outside world, examine your view of the outside world, examine how you think, examine how you process things, examine how open your mind is to changing and embracing concepts like this when they become available to you. That's what it's been all about for me. As I say over and over and over and over, the food is kind of secondary. The food was like the portal. The food was what kind of got me cleaned out to go on to other things, but it's never going to be all about the food. And we're never going to no one is ever going to make this happy, complete, peaceful life with just food as the only thing of focus in their life. So anyhow, don't wait to be happy. Go out and be happy today, whatever's happening with you. And hey, I'm sure there will be somebody that can be watching this video that's in miserable circumstances right now. There's somebody that could be watching this video that is in horrible pain right now. And believe me, I have compassion for that. And you know, I know when people are in those type circumstances, they tend to kind of look at you like, you know, fuck off. You know, you don't know. And I don't know. I don't know, and I don't know how I would react in a situation of chronic pain or pain all over. But I just hope, you know, this is, like I say, all an exercise, working a muscle. I hope this stuff will stead me well if and when, you know, difficulties come up. Because no matter how bad it is, we're going to be in that circumstance no matter what. So how we adjust the way we think about it can bring a lot of real comfort. So anyhow, just one of my rambling weekend talks. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you again tomorrow. Peace.